To any of you oath breakers out there who are looking to take away my Second Amendment, this flag right here says that I will remain free. So don't tread on me, come take it. And to my political prisoners, we are thinking about you, especially my 3 brothers, for I know the type of men you truly are. The Second Amendment makes you a citizen, not a subject, so don't ever forget that. Thank you all very much.
Don't tread on me.
Don't tread on me.
He said it. He said it all. He's not scary, guys. Phil, thank you. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, when he had said he was interested in speaking in the Defend 2A rally on behalf of Michigan Lighthouse Ministries, I said, okay. And you're really going to like what he has to say. Rel Rebandt, everybody.
Thank you, Bree. It's a great event to be at today and to share some things, and I'm going to share something with you that you're not going to read in any history books. In fact, this may be the only place that you hear what I'm about to say. The bad boys of the revolution, the American Revolution, were the pastors. They were leading the charge. You would not enjoy the freedoms that you enjoy today if it wasn't for them standing up. My next few minutes, I'm going to share some historical things that prove that fact. Point number 1, the major battles of the American Revolution are Battle of Lexington, Battle of Concord, Battle on the Road to Boston, and Bunker Hill. All 4 of those battles were led by pastors. You're not going to hear that, though. When you go and read your books, history books that have been edited, have been revised, they've taken out the fact that when the Battle of Lexington took place, there were 700 Americans that showed up. This is what they will tell you. There were 70 Americans who showed up to fight against 700 British. That's not entirely true, because those 70 Americans were people from Reverend Jonas Clark's church. It was the church that stood up against the tyranny. The man who led the charge was Deacon John Parker. You may remember the shot that was heard around the world and the famous phrase that John Parker quoted from his pastor, who said, "God will not bless an offensive war, but if they want the war to begin, let it begin here." Those 70 men, I think out of 70 men that morning, 18 of them fell to the ground. The 700 British marched into Concord. What they did is they met 400 men who already had heard that this first shot happened against their brothers, their church members, their friends in Lexington. And so as soon as they saw the British, they began to fire. Those 400 men were from Reverend William Emerson's church. The church stood up against the tyranny. On the road back to Boston, an 18-mile trek, there were 4,500 Americans that lined the road. Now, you're not going to read this in your history books, but those 4,500 men came from 5 churches to defend the freedoms that they knew were yours, that were given to you by God. You guys, this is interesting stuff, because we are told that pastors never stand up. And I have to say, many of them are not at this moment. But the good news is, as we promote Michigan Lighthouse Ministries, where we're engaging pastors to help train their congregations to stand up, speak up, and show up, that it is going amazingly well. If you're not convinced that it was pastors who led the American Revolution, let me give you a couple other interesting facts. You don't have to take my word for it, go do your research. The Secretary of State for Britain, Horace Walpole, made this statement, and you'll probably remember this quote. He said, "Our American cousin has run off with a Presbyterian parson." He's talking about John Witherspoon, who signed, the only pastor to sign the Declaration of Independence. King George himself called the war a Presbyterian revolt. He called the pastors the Black Robe Regiment. Friends, listen to this. This is an interesting observation. King George put a death warrant out on 12 people during the American Revolution. 12. 9 of them were pastors. You have to ask, how much trouble does a pastor have to stir up? You really do, to get a death warrant out on your head. But there was a guy named James Caldwell from New Jersey, Reverend James Caldwell. The British came to his home to try to take over what was going on in that city and his congregation because he had a death warrant on his head. They shot through a window of his home and killed his wife. He wasn't there. Later he was shot, determined execution style. Friends, the slogans of the American Revolution, one of them was mentioned by our previous speaker, "Don't tread on me." Another one was an appeal to heaven. I could spend 10 minutes on that slogan. Another one was from John Adams and John Hancock, "We have no sovereign but God and no king but Jesus." This is my favorite one from Thomas Jefferson. "Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God."
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Think with me for just a moment as I wrap this up. The New Testament church was born in a cultural environment similar to ours. They were multicultural, they were multi-religious. You could go into any city in Asia, any city in Greece, and they would have a temple. And that temple would be representing every known religion, and everybody's religion is fine and good and dandy. The Christians came along and they said, no, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me." And oh my goodness, did that stir up a whole hornet's nest. Because in the first century, there was a phrase, a Latin phrase, and the phrase was this: Caesar Kurios or Jesu Kurios? Is Caesar king or is Jesus king? Jesus! Thank you. Interestingly enough, the New Testament church turned the world upside down. Because as Rob just said, they were willing to die for those truths. Our founders pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. My friends, I am going around the state stirring churches and pastors to become like our pastors in the American Revolution. To stand up for your freedoms and your rights. Since the election, I've only had one pastor tell me I'm going to sit on the sideline. Everybody else is getting on board. And I will just offer you this information, folks. If you walk by our tent, the white one right here off the stage, if you write down your name, your pastor's name, I will personally contact them and I will let them know what's going on in Michigan, because they're coming not only after your guns, but they're coming after your faith. And so we're here to protect that, and I'm expecting God to do amazing things. Thank you very much.
That was amazing to hear. Absolutely amazing. So while we talk about Defend 2A, we need to remember, and I'm just going to be straightforward and upfront, there were some people that decided not to come to our rally because we had a rule, right? Do you guys know what that rule was? No weapons. No weapons and no alcohol. And some people were really upset, and I get that. But this is what's happening in our political party. Republicans are losing. Did you guys hear me? We are losing. And we are not losing because there's not enough of us to beat the Democrats. We are losing because we are not united. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. So up next, I want to introduce a conservative activist, Parker Shonts.
Thank you. I want to appreciate Bree for this opportunity to speak and giving me the chance to sort of share some thoughts that I've gained over the years in my years of activism. If you guys don't know me, I'm 21, proudly married, and I've been in the conservative fight ever since I was 16, starting in the 2018 election. which is significant because I don't know if you guys noticed, but we've only been losing since 2018, it seems like, and I think it's going to take a little bit of a mental change in the party in order to turn that around. It was interesting that she asked me to speak on the unity portion of this, because it's not normally been something that's been my MO and my involvement, because I've come from the sort of grassroots activism part of politics, but I think it's something that I've kind of gained a renewed view on over the past couple of months. The word unity in the past has left a bad taste in my mouth because a lot of times it's used in replace of submission. So our politicians place it on us, oh, you need to unify with us. You cannot speak out against these bad things that I am voting for in Lansing, and it's used against us. And that has left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm here today to sort of reclaim the word and the idea of unity. And I think it is ours to take. You know, the politicians do answer to us. So this is sort of my call for them to unify with us, the voters. So just to start my speech, I looked up what is unity, right? We got to start with the definition and sort of get back to the real definition in order to reclaim it. Well, it's a state of being in harmony. The word harmony sort of made me think of, you know, music, of course, striking a chord. What is a chord? It's made up of two or more notes that are played together. All right, so we all are individuals, we are notes, and in order we have to work together, be in tune together in order to make up a chord. So when any one of us is out of tune, that causes the chord become out of tune, and our message is not portrayed to the voters or the wider group that is greater than us. So I'm a conservative. I was introduced as a conservative activist. That's exactly who I am and what I stand for. And without getting into the weeds on the issues, I think, to put it very simply, who I serve and what defines my involvement in politics is, simply put, God, family, and country. I think too many times the Republican Party elects leaders to Lansing who don't serve that sort of hierarchy that is important to us. And that hierarchy is all-encompassing. When you serve God, when you serve family, that in turn serves your country, because we are made up of families, and this is also interchangeable for your community. So too many of our politicians serve the individual or themselves, and a lot of us have taken the word freedom to understand, or have co-opted the word freedom to understand as the individual. What is the individual allowed to do? Is the freedom to serve my own interests or passions, which is not exactly true. Freedom is a duty. We have a duty. It's a big responsibility in order to serve a greater purpose, greater than ourselves, you know, God, family, country. Nowhere in that list is there the individual, you yourself. There's no just Parker Shonts in that list. There's no just Mike Farage. But he is in the list. It's just not just him. And I think so much of our message of unity is breaking apart by individuals who serve themselves or the individual. You know, they're not elected to a position and, you know, they decide they want to blow the whole thing apart. Well, it's not just about them, it's about God, family, country. So when politicians go to Lansing and they do things with the budget in order to put money in their own pockets that causes discord, they are out of tune with our message, and the message is lost. So those are some of my thoughts over the years, and sort of what I have sort of gained in my years of involvement. Unity will ultimately come when we elect leaders who serve that hierarchy in that order explicitly on a day-to-day basis. This is something you have to choose on a day-to-day basis, or else it won't work out, you know.
Food trailer.
So I came up short this last convention. I'm not giving up because, like I said, Parker Shonts is not in that list, the hierarchy of just God, family, country. I am not in that list, it's just me. The purpose is greater than me, so that's why I'm happy to announce that I'm working with people like Luke and a lot of great other young people across the state that I met in my campaign in order to reboot the Young Republicans, and that's why I continue, is because my purpose is greater than me.
Parker, you amaze me. I think he said a lot of things that were exactly nailed on the head. Up next, this is a guy that's really great. I would call him bubbly, but you know, he's just sarcastic. That's really what he is. And I heard today that he was talking about dinner or something like that with the West Michigan Taxpayer Association. This is the president, Michael Farage.
Before I start, I just want to say what Rob said. I hope everyone takes that to heart. That was the best speech of the day. My friends, everyone, if you can hear my voice, stop for a moment. Why are you here? Are you here for the tacos, or are you here for the Republic? We have all kinds of events, we have all kinds of rallies, they're great. But what do you do while you're at the rallies? What do you do after the rallies? To the stage left, you have Michael Hoover, who's running for U.S. Senate. Have you signed his petition or volunteered for his campaign? You have Matt Maddox, who literally lost everything under our own Republican speaker. Have you written him a letter thanking him for what he's done? Or are you simply here for the tacos? What have you done in all these booths? Have you spent any money? Have you signed any petitions? Moms for Liberty, have you signed up and given them your contact info? What are you doing to help save this republic? Because even as we're here today, myself included, we should all feel guilty because we can do more. Or are we simply here for the tacos? This republic is under attack, and it starts with our local. Right here as we sit, the Chinese are trying to take over this territory. They need petition signatures. They need people to help with the recalls. What have you done to help these people? Or are you here for the tacos? It's this simple, my friends. Rob said it the best. If our founding fathers posed their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor, and its sacred trust as well, we the people need to do more for our constitutional republic to save it. It starts at the local level. It starts by helping elect good constitutional candidates, many of which are here. And you know what? It starts with unelecting some unconstitutional candidates, which may have been here as well. But the fact is, we need to stand and do more to save our republic, and then we'll feast on the tacos. My friends, far too many people greater than any of us have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to do little or nothing. That's it. Think about it. Next up is our state rep, Neil Friske. Is it on video? For Tuesday. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So thanks to Bree and for the fine people down here in Mecosta County for inviting me down to be a part of this event. It looks like part of our crowd has left us by now, but the diehards, the people that are really committed to the right causes are still here. So we thank you for that. Thank you for all the different booths that are here representing different organizations, for all the hard work that you guys do. I agree with Mike, we do need to support more than we ever have. When you're speaking later in the day like this, it's tough because pretty much everything I have to say has already been said. But I'm going to give it maybe from a slightly different perspective. So my name is Neil Friske. I am a state rep from the 107th district. So I'm from Northern Michigan. I live in Charlevoix. My district goes all the way to Sault Ste. Marie. And I want to talk a little bit about, there's been lots of comments made about the Republicans sticking together. This is kind of the unity part of the program. And I think it is very important that we stand strong if we ever plan to defeat the Democrats. We do need to stick together and support each other. However, and however is the key word here, unity should never mean compromising our conservative values or tolerating do-nothing Republicans and traitors. So often we get wrapped up in the concept that we've got to take back the majority, and we do. We do have to take back the majority. That's super important. But if we don't elect the right people, half of our or more of our efforts are wasted. So we've got to get the right people elected. We as conservatives must unite under the core principles which make us strong. Some of those being Christianity, strong family values, the sanctity of life, upholding our constitutional rights and free market liberties, securing the borders, and standing against uncontrolled mass immigration. Too often we see wolves in sheep's clothing trying to sabotage the conservative movement that the mass majority of us actually want for the benefit of a very few. All across Michigan, we see that the grassroots and the real right-wing conservatives have taken over control of our state party and districts. And we have to keep that in mind. You know, I listened to some of my colleagues in Lansing justify their votes. I've got to vote for my district, you know, and I'm in a 50-50 seat, and you know, I've got to appease everybody. And my question to them is, do you think any Democrats voted for you? Probably not. So that means if you won, the majority of the people are Republicans, and that's who you should be worried about, not worried about the other side. I mean, if we don't have morals and convictions and something that we stand for, what do we have? You know, I always say, I mean, I don't need this job. It's an act of service for me. I have 4 sons and 6 grandkids, and I just hope that I can leave the state in a better place than it was when I started. I'd like them to be able to grow up with the same freedoms and liberties that I've been fortunate enough to grow up in. But the direction things are headed right now, it doesn't look that great for us. We must unite around our America First values. And I know I personally am really excited about the new chair we have for the Republican Party in Michigan. I believe Christina has a great vision, and we need to get behind her. We talk about unity. Too often, so many people that are preaching unity are actually doing just the opposite. I know that Matt lives this with me all the time in Lansing. We get reprimanded all the time about, you know, us more conservative people, we're supposed to conform, and then that makes unity. Well, I don't believe in that. I believe that the woke people and the liberals and the middle of the road people are the ones that are causing the division, and the conservative movement is strong. And as long as we stick together, we will prevail in the end. The radical left Marxists are more extreme than they've ever been before, and they're getting more and more powerful day by day. The only way we defeat them is if we collectively form one conservative America First force and take them head on. We're done apologizing for our faith, we're done apologizing for our values, and we're done apologizing for our birthright. Appeasing the left is only admitting defeat. We need to be in action nonstop, 24/7. And I know several other people have talked about that. And unfortunately, you know, there's not too many people left here, but this is how it always is. You know, they used to always say that 20% of the people do 80% of the work, but I feel like, unfortunately, that number's gone the other way. I think we're now about 10% of the people doing 90% of the work. So I know it's easy to get burned out. You know, everybody's asking for money, everybody's asking for help, everybody's asking for volunteers, but at the end of the day, if we aren't willing to do that, then we have no right to complain about the direction things are going. So we can either unite under the conservative values that all of us claim to believe in and take back the State House, the U.S. Senate, the White House, or we can continue bickering and throw in the towel. I know what I'm choosing. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Victory draws near. We know what we have to do in order to win. We've learned from 2020 and our mistakes in 2022. Now it's time to strike and defeat the enemy. So I would just encourage you all to dig in, hunker down, and keep working for freedom. And as bleak as it may seem, better days are definitely ahead because we have a faith in God, and ultimately, this is really a spiritual battle. That's a whole nother topic. This is really a spiritual battle that we're in. And so as long as we realize that and lean on God, ultimately He will deliver us. So thanks for being here, and thanks for your time.
Neil, thank you. What he said, let's dig in. And I'll tell you what, he is safe with as grassroots as he is. He is safe from our next speaker. And I say that because our next speaker is a rhino hunter. I'd like to introduce to you Shane Trejo, the Grand New Party PAC Executive Director.
Thank you for that introduction. So I want to speak on unity today. Unity's become a dirty word to the grassroots. It's what we've been bludgeoned with after, bad conventions, after we get screwed over in primaries. The bad guys will put up a bajillion dollars for the RINO, will denigrate and slander the good guys in the primaries, and then after that, they'll say, well, we have to unify, we have to beat the Democrats. Or at state convention, remember those of us who've been in for a long time remember when they shoved the RINO Brian Calley down our throats and then said, oh, okay, we're gonna screw you over at convention, now you all have to unify behind him. Then he gave us the gas tax and all kinds of other bad stuff. So that's what we've been subject to for a very long time. So unity has become a dirty word. But now the tides have turned. Things have changed. If you look at the results of the last state convention, the grassroots was in control. The grassroots put in their new state committee. They put in their new state GOP leader, Christina Caramo. They put in at the district level, look at District 2, run by Patriots. Virtually every district across the state is run by Patriots. Virtually every county is now run by Patriots. So now we have something that is worth unifying around. We have a Republican Party that works for us, that works for the people. And we forged this through many years of strife. And 2024 is going to be the biggest battle yet. We don't just have something to rally around at the county, district, and state levels, but we also have something to rally around in Lansing now with the Michigan Freedom Caucus. So similar to the U.S. Congressional Freedom Caucus, where you see the likes of Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs take it to the rhinos there, force concessions out of Kevin McCarthy, and do the best that they can to throw a wrench in the uniparty schemes of Washington, D.C. Now you have a Michigan Freedom Caucus that is putting a wrench in the schemes of the uniparty in Lansing. The Grand New Party PAC, we had a very great Zoom video recently where thousands of people watched with one of the Michigan Freedom Caucus members, Representative Jim DeSana. He really pulled the veil back of what we call the Lansing Deep State. So Lansing Deep State, this is how it works. They will go behind closed doors, leadership, including Representative Matt Hall, the minority leader. They'll go behind closed doors. They'll cut deals with the Democrats. They'll cut the deals with the lobbyists and do the bidding of the special interests. They'll support different bills. Every time you see these horrible bills pushed through, gun control, civil rights for transgenders, and all kinds of awful bills, there'll always be a token Republican who supports it. And, you know, one time it'll be this RINO who takes the hit, and the next time it'll be the other RINO who takes the hit. It's musical chairs. It's all orchestrated. And we pulled the veil back on that with Representative Jim DeSanta of the Michigan Freedom Caucus. We also had many Michigan Freedom Caucus members in attendance here. Neil Friske just talked, Matt Maddock, and others who are here and doing great work. And there's something that we can rally around, something that we can unify around. We don't unify around the bad guys. We unify around the best that we're doing. And the PAC at which I am the executive director, Representative Steve Cara, he is the chairman of not just the Michigan Freedom Caucus, but the Grand New Party PAC as well. So we exist to support fighters in Lansing who stand for America First, as well as fighters at the county commission and state and school board levels. So that's what we're working to. We're working to take the momentum that we have and make it into a lasting America First movement. So when we do gain power, when the Republican Party does gain power back, and we will, because the people are going to see how evil these Democrats are, they're going to lose their prosperity, the craziness in the schools is all going to get worse, and people will wake up. But when they do, we will have a Republican Party that takes power, that takes control, that will stand for the Constitution, that will defend our rights, and will actually conserve something for once. So that's what we need to unify around. Come see me at the table over there of Grand New Party. Thank you.
Yeah, Shane, speak it. So Shane's our RINO hunter, right? The next guy that I'm going to introduce, I like to tell him, I actually did tell him this, he gets around. Like literally around the world. Like he is around the world, he is at all these different fundraisers and events, and he's donating to people. And I also tell him he's my favorite establishment. Former MRP Vice Chair, Scott Greenlee.
Thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, first of all, very much for being here and for staying here to listen to all these speakers. I think it's fantastic what the chair of this district, Andy, has organized with the committee, and of course, Bree, who has managed this entire operation. Let's give her a big round of applause. She told me I was coming here to play the drums, which, believe it or not, fun fact, I'm pretty good at. But I guess they're not going to let me take the drum set over, so I'm going to spend a couple minutes talking to you about unity and how I see it, because there are different versions and different ideas that every individual has, and that's what makes our party great, and that's what makes our country great. The fact that we're not under orders. We're free thinkers, we're entrepreneurial in mindset, and we're typically going to figure it out for ourselves. On my end, I'm a Reagan Republican. How many Ronald Reagan fans do we have in the audience? Anybody like President Reagan? Don't you wish he was our president now instead of Biden? I mean, my God. So Reagan had a great phrase that he talked about, which led him to a lot of success. And his phrase was, if you and I can align 80% of the time, you're not my enemy, you're my trusted friend and valued ally. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I would like to see Representative Friske, Representative Maddock, and Representative Kuntz, who was here earlier, I'd like to see them as chairs of committees, not as vice chairs, removed with the opportunity, sometimes they can't even speak to issues. I mean, the way the Democrats are handling their first foray into total majority in the last 40 years is flat out disgusting and wrong. It's not how Republicans governed when we had all of those different bodies. We would at least allow the other side to speak. We would not try and undo decades of what the people of Michigan wanted and what was voted through in the legislative process in a matter of weeks. And I get it. They know they're going to be lucky to hold on to the majority next time. So they are trying to get everything done as quick as they can, which leads to overreach, which leads to a real problem with the independents in this state. And folks, that's who decides our elections. We are not Mississippi, we're not Alabama, we're not Nebraska. You know, we are a state that has to get all of our Republicans voting and win a few of those independents over to win statewide elections. This isn't like that everywhere. I mean, Representative Friske is going to be safe in his seat as long as he runs, and I think that's fantastic. but there are so many seats that are close that we have got to get together. So my overwhelming message today is remember the words of Ronald Reagan, if you say you're a Reagan Republican. If we can agree and work together on 80% of the stuff, that's going to lead to returning the Republican Party majority in the House in 24 and holding that majority and adding a Senate and a governor in 2026. And we can have our family fights. That's what primaries are for. I participate in them. I don't mind them. I think they're healthy. I think they cause our representatives to work harder and to frankly be better. But when those primaries are done, one thing that I've always done, I'm no RINO, I've always voted straight Republican, and that's what I'm going to continue to do, and that's what I encourage every single one of you to do. Take as much time and energy and passion as you sometimes display against Republicans and channel it all toward the Democratic Party, because they're the real enemy, they're the real threat to this republic. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support of this great District 2 organization. God bless, and we'll see you around.
Amen. Hold on, though. Hold on. Now, I believe, at least what I observed from you, is you're a man of your word.
Yes.
Would you please take a seat? I'd like to see that you're a man of your word. And as you do this, you know, like the dun 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 dun. Yeah. Okay, get a little something going. Can you go? Yeah. I'm gonna talk while you're doing this. Oh. So. Yeah. Our next speaker is the chairman of D-2. Andy Sebolt. Andy Sebolt. He's got it. Oh, keep going. Andy Sebolt. Here he comes. You're gonna have to like shimmy with the beat. Andy Sebolt.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you, Ringo. I will do. Guys, everyone that's here and is still staying here, thank you for coming out today. Thank you for supporting us, but you're not really supporting us. You're supporting a cause far greater than the District Republican Party. And this last little, and I'm going to promise you a very brief message on unity, I'll start it with a joke. There's no greater way to get together than over a joke. Three guys walk into a Republican bar. Of course, today's standards, we don't really know if they're all guys. One's a Democrat, one's a liberal, one's a socialist. The Democrat goes up to the bartender and says, "Bartender, 3 Bud Lights, please, for me and my friends." The bartender says, "Tranny fluid? We don't have any of that stuff here. You're gonna have to go into the city." So the Democrat, the liberal, and the socialist get on the road to go into the city to look for a more inclusive establishment. Then they notice that there's lights flashing behind them. Sheriff department pulls them over. And the cop says, "Have you boys been drinking? I saw you pull out a Republican Bob's." And the Democrat who was driving said, "Well, yeah, we left the bar, but he didn't have any Bud Light to serve us." And the cop says, "Well, yeah, that's Republican Bob's. He doesn't sell tranny fluid, but I'm still have to pull you over and arrest you for OWI." And the Democrat said, "But officer, you just said you knew we weren't drinking. He doesn't serve Bud Light." You said, "Well, no, not operating while intoxicated, operating while indoctrinated. I'm gonna have to pull you in." "Yeah, no, sorry, thanks for the cheap joke."
Where's the rim shot?
Well, we won't go that far. There are kids here. So again, thank you everyone for showing up, but also not just for today. Please consider joining your county parties. What we need to look at is not just who is currently serving us, but where we were going to be in the next 2 years, in 2024. Last year we had 20% voter loss. Our turnout just plummeted. We didn't lose only because of cheating. We didn't lose only because of better Democrat tactics. We lost because we lost our unity. So as we head out here, let's remember that our Republican votes are not in events. They're not at Lincoln Day dinners. They're out there at doors. So please work together with whoever your current representative or senator is. Get behind them, hit doors. Talking to one another accomplishes nothing. All the votes are out there. Let's keep hitting doors, unify together, and come together for a stronger party. Thank you. And Bree, one final message.
You rock. Andy rocks, right? Andy rock. That was the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life, by the way, Andy. That was amazing. You all, thank you. Listen, we are not done yet. This is the end of our rallies. I know everyone's ready. We're tearing our tents down because it's 4:30. Bring those tents on over to this area. Find a seat, get a chair, sit down and relax. At 5 o'clock, we've got 3 different bands that are gonna start playing. Right now, though, we wanna thank our sponsor bands. State Rep Gina Johnson with Parted Waters, Viva Rex, and our sponsor videographer, Tommy Vale. Okay, so take your 30 minutes, get your tents, get your drinks, and head on over to the food truck and go get yourself some tacos. Thank you all.